The marriage goes through, well, there's different stages depending on what author or what book you're going to read, but there's approximately 5 stages that every marriage goes through, growth stages, that they're supposed to go through. So it's a foreign topic, not to the guys in here at this point, based on what I'm saying now. It's a foreign topic to them, for them to think, oh, so the romance phase, which I'm very familiar with, that's not the only phase. There's the romance phase and the settling in phase. They can see those 2 phases. We had a romantic phase, and then we had the romantic phase is over phase. No, there's about 4 or 5 other stages of growth in the marriage beyond that span the entire lifetime. So that's an odd concept for them. She knows we're always going to be, this marriage is always going to be a work in progress. We never arrive. The ASD husband goes, oh, fuck. So I got to have difficult conversations with you about social and emotional things for the rest of my life. Kinda.
It was not in the brochure.
They should tell you up front. They should give you a little manual. I pronounce you a man and a wife, and here's your manual. She wants you to listen to her. She would want you to perhaps paraphrase back what she said, so she would know that A, you listened to her, and B, you actually understand what she said. Because if she were here, she would say, well, a lot of times when I talk to him, I think he's listening to me, but I know after the fact he didn't hear a damn word I said. So you would want to listen to her. And when I say listen to her, I mean stop what you're doing. Put your phone down, or pull your computer over to the side, or put the TV on mute, whatever you got to do. Stop, unless you're saving a baby from drowning in the backyard pool. Stop what you're doing when she's talking to you about something that might be important, and at least pause for a few seconds and look in her direction so that you can give her the indication that you're actually paying attention and that you're present. Those are 2 key terms, guys. She wants to know that you're paying attention. She wants to know that you're present. And then when she expresses a feeling, even though you may not understand what she means when she's expressing her feeling, at least you can say, okay, well, I understand that you're upset about that, or I understand that you're disturbed about this. So you're not only listening and paraphrasing back what she said so that you give her the indication that you understand, you're also kind of validating her feelings and her whatever else that she's trying to convey. You're validating that. But it's listening, paraphrasing back, so that she'll know that you not only listen, but you understand, and that you're validating her situation, her feelings, her thoughts, whatever that is. So that's the 3 prongs there. Listen, prove to her you understand, and validate her feelings. I would ask for you guys to ask your wife if she would do you a favor. And you should do this today. Here's the script you can use. You're talking to your NT wife. I want to start listening to you and paying attention to what you have to say because you're important to me. And so could you do me a favor? And could we adopt this scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is something that you're telling me is kind of important, but it's not emergent, and it's maybe doesn't even require my response, but it's still something you want me to listen to. And 5 is what you're telling me is super important, and I need to really pay attention and give you my 100% full attention because it's like a super important thing. And most women will be willing to do that. Most women will be perfectly happy to say, okay, well, I'll do that. And then, so later this evening, she says, well, I wanted to mention something to you, and this is a level 2. Okay, and now you know that it's something that's important to her, but it's not like a big, crucial, emergent thing. Have the conversation with your NT wife sometime today and say, I want to do a new thing. I want to start paying attention to your wants and your needs and your feelings and your thoughts. And it would be helpful to me if you would give me a scale from 1 to 5. 1 is it's important, but it's not something that you necessarily need me to take action on. You just want me to listen to it. 5, it's super important, and I really need to listen, and it's probably something you need me to take action on, and 3 is somewhere in the middle. So when you're going to tell me something that's relatively important, just give it a rating from 1 to 5 so I'll know how important it is, because I want to start paying attention. If she goes, well, I feel this way about that, and she expects you to take how she feels and apply it to some action that you're supposed to implement. That's going to be difficult. So one of the things you can say would be helpful to me if you would just come right out and tell me what you need instead of putting me in a situation where I have to guess how you feel or guess what I'm supposed to do based on how you feel or read your mind about what you need. Just point blank, come right out and tell me what you need. You said that sometimes she feels like it's just a lot of work to explain. As a general rule of thumb, you could say with the business of over-explaining and she gets tired of doing that, then here's your line again. It would be helpful to me if instead of giving me a lengthy explanation, if you could just give me like the summary or the main point. So you're not accusing her of doing anything wrong when you say it would be helpful to me, and you're asking her two things. One, just tell me what you need so I don't have to read my wife's emotions and figure it out. And also it would be helpful to me if you could summarize the main point or main points, and that would save you from a lengthy explanation, because I'm sure that a 10-minute conversation, this might be hard. This is hard for them to do because the female NT brain doesn't think like this. But it would be possible to take a 10-minute monologue and whittle it down to a 10-second main point. She's not going to like doing that because she thinks she's got a data dump on you. That's how they think. The more data, the better, because that's how they think. When they're trying to figure stuff out and they're listening to somebody else, they want as much data as you can pour it on, because that helps them with their processing and decision making and understanding of stuff. It doesn't work like that for the ASD man. Data dumping ends up in meltdowns and shutdowns, or just in false agreement. Yeah, honey, I hear what you're saying. Sure, yeah. I'll do it. Right. But then we get into trouble because you just agreed to get the conversation over with, and then you missed the good message, or you missed something that you were supposed to do. And so now we got to go face that issue at some point. If she were here, she would say that you don't provide enough emotional reciprocity, that you don't listen. I'm just going to make some things up that you've probably heard. You don't listen, you don't empathize, you don't validate me, and so on and so on. You've probably heard it all many times before. And so if this has gone on for years and years and years, you may have experienced this too. She is super resentful and bitter and angry, and maybe even at some level revengeful. And so what has happened, and I'm not blaming you guys, you're wired the way that you're wired. There's nothing wrong with you. It is what it is. But by virtue of your supposed lack of empathy and her heightened resentment, we're going to call that a cancer in the relationship. And for any of you who have had cancer or know somebody who has gone through severe cancer, you know what's involved. It's a long, drawn-out, painful process. There may be surgery to remove the tumor. There may be chemotherapy. There may be radiation therapy. And after all of the different treatments are done, there's follow-up appointments to get blood work and blah, blah, blah. And it's a long, hard road, at least 6 months, and sometimes 2 years, assuming you even beat the cancer. So you guys are experiencing a relationship cancer right now, and you're in the middle. You've just begun treatment last Wednesday, you just began treatment. And so the whole point of this conversation is that you can, as much as I almost hate to say it, because it sounds kind of disconcerting at some level, you guys are in for the long haul. You have to be in for the long haul. This is not something we're going to resolve in a few weeks of meeting here. You're going to have to apply the assignments that we talk about. You're going to have to be consistent with it. And she is going to have to see some significant change over, there's actually going to be 3 things. It's going to have to be significant change. In other words, something that really stands out in her attention. It's going to have to be consistent change. In other words, change that remains consistent over time. With those 2 things, a fairly radical change that she views coming from your behavior, consistent over time, then and only then will she begin to reduce her resentment level. And she probably has lost trust. She's probably given up hope in some cases. And she's also probably reluctant to give you the benefit of the doubt so early, even if she does witness some significant change, because if she were here, she would say, well, I know there's been times before when he's changed, supposedly changed, but it never lasted very long. And it was just a matter of time before he went back to his old ways. So even if she saw some consistent change in you, a significant change in your empathy level, we'll say, she still wouldn't be necessarily willing to acknowledge it, because she would be concerned that if I start having hope again in him and he lets me down again, I'm not sure I can handle it. So she may even be withholding affection or acknowledgement or praise or pointing out that you're actually doing something right for fear of being let down again. Everybody in here is in for a long haul deal. You have to be willing to tough this out and realize that this fix, for the lack of a better term, is not going to happen anytime soon. That's not to say you wouldn't see some improvement if you're doing the assignments. You should be able to see some improvement in her response to you, but it's not going to be anything real super observable or noticeable for quite a while, because again, she's going to have to see significant change, and she's going to have to see that spread out over the course of the next several months before she's going to have a change in attitude. And that change of attitude in her mind would be, you know what, he is making some significant changes, and he has been consistently doing so over the last 3 or 4 months. Maybe he really has turned the corner. If he were here, he would say, I always feel like I'm letting her down. I never meet her expectations. And it seems to me, in his download mind, it seems to me that it doesn't matter what I say or do, it's never good enough. I always feel like I'm failing. He's also equating you wanting to continue to refine the marriage and the relationship, and why wouldn't you? He's making the mistake that because she's wanting to continue to refine means she's unhappy. Not necessarily. There's probably sometimes when you were trying to fine-tune the relationship, or at least keep it from going off the rails, and you were unhappy. But just because she, whoever she is, wants to work on the relationship, which, by the way, everybody's supposed to be doing until you're dead, his download is because she continues to work on the relationship. Actually, he wouldn't even call it that, because she continues to complain about the relationship. Therefore, she's unhappy. The positive reframe that he's not going to use is, she cares about me, she cares about the relationship, that's why she's trying to continue to work on it from getting worse and try to make it better. And just because she's doing that doesn't mean she's unhappy. You're not responsible for his downloads. If he's downloading it as, well, you're just so critical and you're impossible to please and your expectations are too high, that doesn't mean you're doing all that shit. That just simply means that's his download. You need to look at the difference between of the things that he accuses me of. Remember, we're talking about a positive reframe is to get in alignment, as close to alignment with reality as possible. Is the stuff that he's accusing me of in alignment with reality, or is it way out of reality? It's just it happens to be the way he's skewing reality in his downloads.
There's these standard marriage vows, which you may not have used at your ceremony, wedding ceremony, but you've heard of them before. One of the lines in there goes something along the line of to have and to hold. You remember that part? When's the last time you held your wife? If she were here, would she say, oh, I get held regularly, or never? There's another section in those marriage vows that says something along the lines of to love and to cherish. You remember that part? When's the last time you cherished your wife? If she were here, would she say, oh yeah, I feel cherished and valued? Or would she say, no, I largely feel ignored and insignificant. So the guys are probably listening to this video and thinking, well, hell, Mark, is this a guilt trip? Fuck yes, it is. A well-placed one. You get if your marriage was a job, you would have been fired by now for not meeting your obligations. Your marriage comes with certain duties. In a sense, it is a job. So if I was your teacher, some of you be getting a big fat F- on your marriage report card. Well, I have these traits and it makes me look like I'm a narcissist. Yeah, that's true. But you can learn social skills and you can cultivate some emotional literacy, specifically as it relates to coping in a neurodiverse marriage. I know you have a hard wiring that makes it appear as if you're selfish, insensitive, uncaring, and all that. But there's still workarounds, I call them, where you can function largely as a neurotypical in most cases. Yes, I just said it. You have no excuse. This is going to sound like a commercial, and I don't care. I have groups for men, who are struggling to stay afloat in their marriage. And we look at social skills, we look at emotional literacy, we look at give and take in conversation, how to offer some emotional reciprocity, what to do in the way of affection and validation and listening. Really simple stuff that a 3-year-old can do. It's not rocket science, and the only reason you're not doing it now is because you don't know how to do it. I'm not going to be able to turn you into a neurotypical, and I wouldn't want to, and you wouldn't want to. We don't need that. But you're not a robot. You're not an automaton. You're not a hologram. You're not Spock. You've got a lot of love and compassion and emotion in there and empathy in there, just waiting to be seen. I can help you reveal that to your significant other. She'd probably appreciate the hell out of that. So, in the meantime, how about holding your wife for 10 seconds? Wouldn't that be a hell of a note? Are you so damn busy you don't have 10 seconds to hold your wife? You know, on your deathbed, I don't think you're going to ever have the thought, gosh, I sure wished I'd had more time to play video games. Man, I really wished I could have spent more time at work. I don't think you're going to have those thoughts. You might want to make up for lost time, and I would begin sooner than later. Look up what cherish means in the dictionary and start exhibiting some of that behavior. Do you feel sufficiently chastised at this point? Good. Hey guys, this is Mark, and I got a message to the neurodiverse couples out there. When you experience a particular emotion, you have given birth to that emotion. In other words, it's come into an existence. It's now, in a sense, has a life of its own, and now you're going to have to deal with it, okay? And so your emotions as they come along, and we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these throughout a lifetime, you give birth to that emotion, and now you're going to have to deal with it because now it has come into existence. And you're either going to choose to express the emotion negatively or positively, or you're going to choose to impress the emotion negatively or positively. And I know impress is technically not a word, I-N-P-R-E-S-S, but I'm going to use it just so you'll know that express means it's going to be pressed outward. Impress is I'm going to press it inward. So an emotion comes along, you're going to express it. Negatively would be yelling, screaming, cussing, shaming, blaming, ridiculing, and so on. Expressing the emotion positively would be to, in a very graceful, merciful, compassionate, loving, caring way, discuss the incident in question with the person in question to try to reach some positive resolve. As far as impress negatively would be, I'm going to have toxic guilt, toxic shame, low self-worth. I'm going to hold on to resentment. I'm going to ruminate about past hurts. I'm going to hold on to my trauma and so on. That would be impressing. positive way to impress would be I'm going to reflect on this emotion. I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to ask for guidance from my higher power with respect to how to learn and grow from the incident in question and the feeling in question. So you have a particular emotion. It's now in existence. You are now going to have to deal with it. So how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to express it positively or negatively? Or are you going to impress it positively or negatively? So you have a particular incident that you've experienced, then you have a particular thought about the incident in question, then you have a particular feeling based on the thought. So once the incident has happened, that's done. You can't undo it. And then you've had a particular thought about the incident. You can't undo that. Then comes the feeling. And based on what you've thought about the incident, you really don't have much control over that feeling now. It's been born. It's now come into an existence, and you're going to have to deal with it. It's not going anywhere. It is now alive and well. But now comes the choice factor. You get to choose what you're going to do with that emotion. In other words, what you're going to say or do, or avoid saying or doing. So how are you going to deal with the negative emotion that you're going to experience later today? Are you going to express it? And if so, negatively or positively? Or are you going to impress it negatively or positively? You get to choose.
Always throwing the past in my face. There's two past things. Stuff that you can't change at this point, and past stuff that presently you could do something about. So if she's going to throw the past in your face and there's no way to go back and rectify anything on that particular topic, you're just going to have to be okay with her being pissed off. You can't climb in your time tunnel and go back and fix it. Now, if it's a past incident that you can currently do something about, then you use the line that we just said. Okay, well, I can't go back and erase that, but is there anything I can do about that today? With the first one, where you can't go back and fix it, let her be the one stuck in the past. You're just going to have to be okay with her being stuck back there. The past issue that you can do something about, just ask. Okay, well, I can't go back and erase that from our history, but is there something that I can do now, today? If the answer is yes, then now you have the choice to do something about it or not. You look normal, you walk normal, you talk normal, you might be the smartest guy at work. People that you run into at the grocery store or here and there, they don't, you pass as a neurotypical to them. But you're at your weakest with her. We've discussed that. Because there's a lot of emotional and social nuances and requirements that you're not up to speed with. And she thinks, how come he can do so well everywhere else? Go to the friends, he does fine. Work, he does fine. We go over here and do this, and he's fine. He gets along good with these people, gets along great with the neighbors. Smartest guy at work. When it comes to me, suddenly he just doesn't care. He's uncaring, insensitive, narcissistic, sociopathic, Lord only knows what else. So, and I'm not faulting her. You look so goddamn normal and act, talk, walk, work so normal on all other levels except her, with her. And she doesn't get that. Now, a lot of them do, especially if she's doing my NT ladies group, or you and her are doing the couples group, or she's been watching my videos. She's starting to learn that her message delivery, her heart was in the right place. She had good intentions. She cares about the relationship. Nagging equals importance, but her message delivery sucked. It sucked. It raised your anxiety. You couldn't even listen. She probably came at you when she was upset. She probably droned on for too long. She probably addressed 15 topics in one conversation. She probably brought up the past, threw it in your face. She's probably throwing words at you like darts on your forehead. And you could only listen to 80% of that. And of that 80, you could only understand 60%. And of that 60, you could only retain 40%. And of that 40%, you only follow through with 20%. Not because you're insensitive, uncaring, and selfish. Your brain, your prefrontal cortex was shutting down. And your amygdala was in charge.
Hey guys, this is Mark, and I got a question from a worried neurotypical wife, and she asked, is it my husband's symptoms, he has ASD level 1, going to get worse over time? And the answer is no. Now, there are 2 times the symptoms do get worse, but not as an adult. When the child first enters the school system, you will notice an increase in symptoms and the severity of those symptoms. And around the time the child reaches puberty, you will notice an increase and worsening of symptoms. But as an adult, no. In fact, what I've seen more often than not is the symptoms get better as the person ages. The crotchety old man is kind of a myth. I think the older you get, I'm not saying there's not any crotchety old men, but for the most part, the older you get, the more empathy you get, the more you get in touch with your mortality. And that tends to help you have a little more compassion. And it also helps you to realize my life is short and I want to end on a positive note. So, will your husband's symptoms get worse with age? No. And if you fall in the majority, they're likely to get slightly better. Okay? There you go.